City Council for Monday the 2nd. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Edgar?
Here.
Councilmember Gross?
Here.
Councilmember Murphy?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Graham Mejia?
Here.
Mayor Kusamoto?
Here. Okay. Up on the agenda, we have item 3A, which is the special orders of the day for a workshop on the adopting of the building code changes and giving out the staff reports.
Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council. I am just going to introduce the team that is here tonight, and at the request of the Mayor, Building Code, Fire Code Workshop is going to be held, giving the council an opportunity to ask questions of the chief building official and the Orange County Fire Authority in regards to the 2013 round of code adoption. And I will let Stephen Mendoza, the Community Development Director, introduce the team that's here to be available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Every 3 years, California adopts new model codes to establish uniform standards of which contractors and architects can work and build in California. It's for the maintenance and construction of buildings, plumbing systems, mechanical systems, fire and life safety issues. And pursuant to the Health and Safety Code of the State of California, local jurisdictions are mandated to adopt those codes. Those codes are in the binders behind us. That's the adoption of the building code that you see. It's an extensive 11 to 12 volume document that outlines all of these things in the state of California. But local jurisdictions and local fire authorities are also allowed to provide local amendments based on things that are regional, like topography and experience with Santa Ana winds that we have that other areas don't have. You're allowed to do it as long as you can justify in some of the findings that it's warranted in your community. And Orange County Fire Authority has made some of those modifications and offered some of those modifications in our code, and that's what the ordinances are written on. The two ordinances you have are, one is retains to the fire code only, and then the other one refers to all of the others. And Orange County Fire Authority's recommended changes are incorporated into both those ordinances, except for, as you'll see in the staff report, one such section that provides a difference between a 5,000 and 1,000 square foot threshold for room additions, because some of the room additions we have in Los Alamitos right now, especially in the Carrier Row area, are hitting that 1,000 square foot mark in remodeling or room additions. Another, and this is not just born off of my sense, it's born off of some of the discussions we had 3 years ago when we went through this round. Council at the time was very concerned with the cost of construction and keeping cost of construction down were related to fire sprinklers. So staff carried along with this change into the draft ordinances tonight. Tonight before you, you have Mr. John Bowden with the Orange County Fire Authority. You have Mark Abbott, he's our building inspector, and then you have Paul Melby, who's our chief building official. Now, they represent the building code in a number of cities throughout Orange County and LA County, and John has probably done this about 5 or 6 times in different cities right now. Him and his compatriots at OCFA have been making the rounds to all of the meetings in Orange County for the building code. And we're available if you have any questions regarding the local amendments that are offered to you tonight.
Okay. So before we proceed with questions from the council, I'll just open this up for public comment. Any member of the public wishes to speak on this item, please come forward and identify yourself. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment and back to the council. So questions of staff and of the team here. Anybody want to start?
I've got a question, Mayor. It's probably more of a statement. We tried to put this into our last council meeting agenda, so I was anticipating like a 10 to 15 minute. I know that based on discussion, I think I asked Steve, that this could be fairly lengthy. So there must be some significant changes going through, or are we using this more as a tutorial to get us up to speed? Some of us have been through this a few times, so I just to save time, if there's specific things, I'm very interested to get there. There might be others on the council that want a 3-hour course, but I'm kind of focused more on the shorter one because I'm familiar. So I just want to put it out there.
I appreciate that. And so I just had a couple questions. I'm not sure about Dean or Richard, if you all have any specific questions about this. And Jerry had some as well. So But I would think that we can perhaps make this as short as possible, so if you wouldn't mind, Jerry, you want to go first?
I can go ahead. I actually got here a little early and was able to ask a couple of the questions. My focus was that to make sure that the new changes did not make improving one's home or business so cost-intensive that it would deter people from improving their infrastructure. I've had some of the questions answered. I am glad, Stephen, that we carried forward that 5,000 as opposed to 1,000 with regards to the size of the improvement. We don't want to put on the backs of the residents or the businesses any extra costs in their improvements, and as I said, we don't want to make any deterrence. And I'm actually reviewing a little sheet that John was allowing me to look at, so if I can defer to the others and then maybe come back to it.
Sure. So, but just to clarify, so you're talking about the 1,000 versus 5,000 square foot improvements?
Correct.
Right, and-
Well, that was something we put in place, as you know, Warren, about 3 years ago. As Stephen said, there was a recommendation, and we thought that that would be extremely costly for people to add sprinkler systems to their home should they be doing improvements or doing a new build. So we took action to make sure that it would have to be a pretty large size facility in order for that to be applicable.
Okay, so I'll go ahead with my questions then. So, Stephen and Brett, on the changes relative to helicopter, so I kind of, when I was reading this part, that was part that kind of struck me as why? Why do we need to have a helicopter regulation on here? Because I don't know if we have any helipads here at all in the city, save for the base, of course, and I'm not speaking to that, but is there a reason why we would need to have this, and can we, go ahead.
John, do you want to chime in on the amendment regarding the helipads?
Yes, that's there in the event that you have a, say, for example, a new high-rise is proposed in the city of Los Alamitos. 55 feet or above would constitute a new high-rise, but the helipad is in regards to a height of 75 feet and above is when that requirement kicks in. So if in the event that you did have a high-rise proposed that was 75 feet or higher, that the helipad requirement would pertain.
We can't have anything over, I mean, we learned this in the hospital. What's the height there, Stephen?
The hospital their highest is, oh my gosh, it's 6 floors. The parking structure is the highest building proposed on the hospital, and that's almost done. There won't be any other building higher than that. I think it was, I don't remember what the height limit was, but it won't reach that. The medical building where they will have patient care and emergency room will be only 3 stories.
So would that preclude the need for a helipad then, or I guess prohibit it with the 55-foot or the 75-foot limitations?
I can't predict what would happen in the next 3 years regarding other buildings that may come your way. And to have regulations in the event that somebody files some kind of application is always helpful.
Okay. And then, as silly as this might sound, I think, this thing that Amazon is proposing about drones, this is the point where I'd go. On helicopter, I would like to propose to us that we consider, let's just ban them. Why have them? And then we wouldn't have to have this regulation, because are we going to have a building ever that's going to meet these height requirements? And I understand what the community development director is saying, but there's a possibility of a future building, don't know where it would go, that would have a need for a helipad. Would the hospital want to put one in? I guess that's something we could perhaps entertain at a later date as well. I don't know, would their specific plan permit that?
As proposed, no.
So they have to amend their specific
They would have
plan.
to amend their specific
Specific
plan to go
plan.
higher than that.
Okay, so with that, and then I think this other thing about, I'll just say, I'm really against the whole notion of drones. I think in public airspace, to have something that's so uncontrolled and unsafe that when you have pleasure aircraft, private airplanes, you've got the helicopters on the base, you've got commercial aircraft. I think that the drone idea is just so crazy that, we had to look at, doing away with both the helicopters and drones, but that'd just be where I'm coming from. But anyways, those are my questions on the helipad. And Jerry, did you want to?
On that issue, as
Microphone.
far as the hospital has taken helicopter deliveries in the past, and they usually use the street and shut down the street. Now, nothing in this prohibits them bringing in a patient by air if they need to, or multiple patients by air. They're one of the few receiving facilities that's in the area. And I'm not sure, but I thought somewhere in that total package that they did include something for helicopter landing for the ER in the future.
But not of the 75 feet in height.
No,
Not at that
I
level.
understand that.
Yeah.
From the standpoint of a building built. But to say we're just going to ban all of that kind of puts a skew on it from the standpoint as far as the health center is concerned, access in. Now, maybe there's a, way to land them at the base and use ground transport to bring them over from the base over to the hospital, if that became what the plan is. But I would, the base is a huge element from the standpoint of Homeland Security and a staging spot, and I would hate to see us do things that preclude using it in that particular fashion. The fire department has meetings, and their health services, all of them have meetings with their envision of what they're going to do in the base. And the base is nowhere at any of those meetings. And so it's going to be, when we have a big disaster happen, it's going to be real interesting, because they have visions of what they're going to do, and the others have visions of what they're going to do, and I'm not sure that they've ever been truly vetted amongst themselves.
But I would submit to you, Dean, that landing a helicopter on a street, public street, parking lot, or whatever have you, there's no helipad, there's no markings, there's no windsock to guide them in, right? These would be extraordinary kind of conditions. So
Right.
Where I'm kind of coming from is not permit helipads in any high-rise in our city is really where I'm coming from. This doesn't preclude a helicopter from landing in the football field on the high school or the base. That's not what I'm talking about.
I see, okay.
And I just think that if we do away with helicopters landing on top of buildings in a marked-off helipad, then I think this requirement goes away. But on the flip side of that, I understand where Steve is coming from, is that we may have a situation where we would want to put one in, or permit one in, so.
But, Mayor, if I may, I don't think, I don't see where leaving it out in this go-round is going to negatively affect us. Nothing goes through that quickly in Los Alamitos, where I could imagine a building being built within the next 3 years that's that tall that would need a helipad. And I agree with Dean, landing in the street's not an option, but I don't think that's what Warren was making reference to as far as just omitting this piece from the recommendation, and I support that.
Want to go with your questions?
My questions were merely with regards to the residential cost increases, and they were very nice. They provided me with this kind of a benchmark that went through things that had been either omitted, things that were just modified, new things. There's only a couple of new items, and none of those would be cost prohibitive for any of the residents or the businesses. And that's really what I was looking out for. I'm not trying to stall the process. I just want to make sure that the residents and the business know that we are paying attention to this and that we're staying informed, and getting to ask a couple extra questions before the meeting actually did help quite a bit.
Okay. And I guess just one last thing that I had, and I think I'll be done with my questions, but in regards to any green initiatives on this that would be, I guess, adverse cost to the developers, builders, homeowners, what changes were put into this code that would be in the, that environmental concerns?
Well, there's, Mark actually has a really good description of what the Green Code has as far as what it allows and also what it mandates. Do you want to give that description? On the, I'm sorry. Mark described this to me today. He did a really good job of showing how, although it doesn't mandate charging stations, it has sections that allow for it and specifications therein.
This is the California Green Code, which came into effect in the last code cycle. I'll just kind of pick a point here, but the Green Code has been tackling things like best management practices and erosion control and air quality and different things like that. Your house now has to have a whole house fan, little things like that. It's not cost prohibitive at this point. But what the Green Code does is about half of this part is mandatory requirements, and the other half is recommended requirements. These are things like, the recommended requirements are things like piping your house for future solar, or putting electrical in your house for future electrical vehicle charger. And it's all in, each title of each chapter says recommended for commercial, recommended for non-residential, recommended for residential. So nobody has to do these at this point. You have to do this half at this point, but it's not, there's no significant.
Are those new?
This-
The have-tos?
No.
Mandate.
They were in as of, correct.
I have a quick question for that. I haven't had this experience, but I've had people bring it up. When they're going to sell their homes, and I don't know this to be true, so I'm learning today, that if they're going to sell their homes, that they have to replace their doors and windows, and that they have to be green, in green compliance in order to do that. That's not something?
I knew that's,
It's not mandatory to change those.
Not mandatory? Okay, okay. All right, well, I appreciate that, and I'll pass that on, because I haven't had that experience, but nevertheless, learning.
So Mayor, let me ask you, and Rich, we haven't heard from you, but if we've got most of our questions answered, I mean, the biggest thing I think, and I'll just say it was the 1,000 to 5,000 feet. I had talked to Steve prior to the last council meeting. Unless there's a real need to go through it in detail, do you think we need to have a full elongated staff report to help flesh out more questions, or?
I'm good with the questions I have, so. So I'll guess, to Richard, any other question you might have on this, or, okay, so you're good to go?
One last thing. And I was trying to save time. That's why I asked the questions ahead of time, and John was nice enough to answer them for me. There were some changes in here that appeared to me to be mandatory and new, but it turns out some of them were already the standard. So they're things that are already being done, and they're not additional items being added to further exacerbate the process if you want to enlarge or improve or build something new. So, John, thank you so much for taking the time, and I hope we didn't waste all of your time, but these are things that we wanted to ask, and it's important for the residents and the businesses to get to see these questions being answered, because some of them are their questions.
Okay, so no further questions. Thank you very much, staff. Is there a motion for this?
Well, I'll make a motion to accept staff recommendations, but Mayor, I want to make sure that we're sensitive to what your recommendation is. Can you help frame what modification you wanted to see?
Well, I'm good with proceeding forward, Troy. I appreciate the consideration, but my question would be on the subject of helipads and the whole issue there. I think, if I understood what Mayor Pro Tem Graham Mejia said, is that no harm, no foul, including it now, right? Nothing's going to happen in the next cycle. But I guess call the question is that, do we really need to have this in there at all? But I'm
No,
not going
I supported your motion, actually, to remove it, because I don't think within the next 3 years we're going to be using it.
Well, okay, but here comes the question. So do we feel like that we would want to do that, but in so removing it, we would have to enact something else, I believe, down, fairly quick. So that'll be the question. So I'm good either way. I just wanted to get that question out there, and maybe that's something that, that we include in this as written, but really do that discussion, should we work to get it out of here? And
give staff direction to keep an eye on that area specifically
Yeah.
for when we get ready for the next month. Because we'll have to do this again in 2 years, right? Or
3 years.
Yeah, yeah, we look forward to it.
But yeah, I think the thing is, so either way, Jerry, we're not going to get someone's going to want to put a helipad in.
Right.
But yes.
And that section that's being amended is specific to emergency helicopter landing facilities. It's not for helicopter landing pads in general. It's
Okay.
it's specific to fire, police, and medical only.
Okay. Okay. So not like Southland Credit decides they want to put a helipad in.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So then is it applicable at all? I mean, since we don't have those needs or availabilities, is it even necessary to have it included? I guess that's the question.
Well, let me answer that question. Orange County Fire Authority, and I'll help you out a little bit here. They represent 32 jurisdictions, and they want to standardize the process as much as possible. So they have a template of amendments that they present to each city, so that it's a standardized process, and this is part of that template. So it's an amendment, you can accept it, you don't have to accept it, but it creates a standard throughout Orange County is what happens there.
I think the key was it's a public safety fire issue, not a commercial, situation. And so again, I guess sticking with my original motion.
I think it limits where it's going to go. We already know that, so, okay, I'm good with leaving it. So the concern I had was more of the non-medical, non-emergency kind of application. So did you want to make a motion?
Yeah, if I can, I'll make a motion for staff recommendation as amended to add the 1,000 to 5,000 square foot modification. That'd be my motion. And I'm going to be told to do something different here. Go ahead, Gary.
In order for this to go into effect on January 1st, the ordinance needs to be adopted tonight. You've already had first reading, so we would need also a motion to waive the reading, the full reading, and adopt ordinance number 13-07 and also ordinance number 13-08. And I will spare the mayor's voice if you would like, and I would read the titles.
Well, you appreciate that. Is that before, that's the motion?
Yeah, that's the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion a second. City Attorney, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. 13-07, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Alamitos, California, repealing Chapter 15.04 of Title 15 of the Los Alamitos Municipal City Code and adding a new Chapter 15.04, adopting by reference various provisions of the 2013 edition of the California Building Standards Code, California Code of Regulations, Title 24, consisting of the California Administrative Code, the California Building Code, the California Residential Code, the California Green Building Standards Code, the California Electric Code, the California Mechanical Code, the California Plumbing Code, the California Energy Code, the California Historic Building Code, the California Existing Building Code, and the California Reference Standards Code, the 2012 International Property Maintenance Code as published by the International Code Council, the 2012 International Swimming Pool and Spa Code 2012 edition, as published by the International Code Council and the State Housing Code, as well as, and if you'd like to take them together, ordinance number 13-08, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Alamitos, deleting Chapter 15.08 of the Los Alamitos Municipal Code and adding a new Chapter 15.08, adopting by reference the 2013 edition of the California Fire Code, Title 24, Part 9, with appendices and amendments thereto.
So thank you. So with that, we have motion, second, and the ordinance read. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So passes 5-0. Great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the information and the questions that we had answered. And with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting to our next regular scheduled meeting for December, what is it? The 16th.
And thank you, Mayor, for having this event tonight.